Не, я, блядь, не понимаю, ну, блядь, что за художник?
А после придут?
Вот смотрите, все старики сделали. Вот эти
Следуя решили ввести другую жанровую форму. We decided to introduce a different, a new genre form, which we call an art intervention. So what we discussed during the first session, what we are discussing during the first session is related to birth trauma that shape the cultural situation and the context that we find ourselves in. Speaking about art and rational mechanism and analytical rational mechanisms are not effective all the time. That's why we wanted to use some art means, and it's going to be sound, it's going to be audio influence that will activate different time layers so that it could provide a holistic experience. So this is a fragment from Arseny's project. It's a radio play, Radio October, which basically consists of some production noises and talks between the workers during the installation of the fourth Biennale of Contemporary Art. And the artist, Arseny Zhilyaev, is going to talk more about his project. This project began with my long-term friendship with one of the Moscow institutions, art institutions, that used to be an industrial enterprise earlier on. And like many enterprises, it was called October Factory. However, it had one big difference. Unlike other post-Soviet art plants in Moscow, October Factory continued to work as a real production enterprise because they produced paper. And the workers that stayed there at this plant since the Soviet time gradually transformed into art producers, contemporary art producers. At the very bottom line of this process. So they basically were working as a part of installation team. It was pretty extraordinary for me, but was very interesting at the same time, because most of the people took contemporary art and artists as aggressors that destroyed a part of their history, and that was what happened. And while talking to those people and thinking about those conversations, I had an idea of creating a radio, because I knew that many Soviet enterprises had radio. They would play music at their plants, so they would install these different radio players in different places all over the enterprise. And in case of October Factory, we found out that that radio player was in the director's office. So I thought it was all very interesting, and I suggested creating the radio. But then we realized that it would be impossible to establish all the connections, this radio network. And so we had to come up with some sound story. And I decided to work as part of that installation team for a month while we had to install everything for the Moscow Biennale. And so I just wanted to record the sound environment that we found ourselves in. And during this process, I realized that the title that I wanted to use, October Radio, was there already, and I found out that there was a play written by Mayakovsky and Brick in 1926, which had the same title, October Radio, to celebrate the anniversary of the October Revolution. So I thought I had to create sound collage and record it. And when I was doing editing work, I realized that what I was going to have as a result was very familiar to me. Not only because I knew the life of art factories, but I felt I knew this since my childhood, because I grew up in an industrial city called Voronezh, and I was living in a workers' district. So when I was a child, I always had this noise as a background sound, because we had this train manufacturing enterprise, and so it sort of made a big impact on me. And so I can feel this noise in my head even now. So that's October Radio became an attempt to give you the chance to feel what it's like. It's a fantastic idea about this background noise. I grew up not an industrial city, but the district where I grew up was quite industrial. My house was at the junction between 3 highways, and there was a plant nearby, so I sort of heard that noise as well. So it was all around me. And once I remember that when I was a little girl, we went outside. It was a beautiful, peaceful countryside, but I sort of felt that I missed something. I missed that noise, because that noise defined my environment at that time. And that unconscious feeling was there, but you can't really control it by your mind. So I just wanted to ask you, if you go into the unconscious, where everything happens at the same time, when there's no time limit, when everything exists at the same time, as if you open a window. So what would it be like for you, this sound environment? What would you see outside that window? What kind of time would it be? Well, we created this work in 2011. It was a very special time for the whole country. It was a very special time. So if we get back to the topic of our discussion, post-what, I thought that it was clear for me what happens after what. And my colleagues, Alexei Pinzin and Ilya Budraitskis, once said that we were in some stagnant state, stone-like state of post-Soviet time. And it was sort of an interim stage to the way to good capitalist situation. But after the 90s were over, we realized nothing really changed. And it's very clear if we, for example, look at the art institutions, because in the early 90s, they were all friendly, self-organized initiatives, and it was a big advantage. But then in the year 2000, And around that time, when the situation became better, all those art institutions became more bureaucratic in character. So they maintain some features of incompletion. So if we speak about the Soviet Union, we could also understand it as an indefinite state of incomplete process. So speaking about garage, for example, we again waiting for the reconstruction of the Soviet building, which will become a new home for garage. It's going to happen very soon, right? Speaking about this temporarily state, actually the pavilion designed by Shigeru Ban was designed as a temporary pavilion. So it's true that we're going to move to a new building which used to be a restaurant called Vremena Goda. Maybe some of the visitors were there. So and that restaurant was to accommodate 1,200 people. So it's just unimaginable. Why so many? Why did they want to cater so many people? Who were those people that had to go there? It felt like they were all looking forward to some bright future for this beautiful communist time when all the people from all over the world would come to Moscow and they had to have their meal. So that was the place designed for them. But it's so unimaginable in the current context. I have to say that the time of the year 2011 seems to be a very different time period, different epoch. It's true that you can feel this huge gap because over several years happened so many things that could not really fit into one decade. So let's say if you had now to capture the time, to capture what is happening right now. If you had to create this radio play again, what would it be like, this sound structure? How would you create this audio work? If, of course, if you're interested to repeat this experience again. I think that despite that, we think of the year 2011 as a very far away time, but this feeling of post-Soviet state is still maintained, and it even became stronger. Maybe through low frequency of that accord, more like inferno kind of sound. Because the Soviet style is more associated with ideology, and it's actually used by the Russian government today. So if I think about the radio play about this time, I would probably use something like a heavy metal, like black metal, low frequency sounds. And in terms of words, I would probably create a collage that would consist of different music extracts from Soviet singers that could be integrated by Soviet politics. For example, Iosif Kobzon, that used to be the favorite singer of October plant, beginning with 1980s. So I would use a record of the meeting between Iosif Kobzon and the tank man that got fired in Donbass, that loved the band, the music band Kino, but still was very happy to meet Kobzon. And as an experiment, I would risk asking the audience the question: if you had to go through this time, if you had to feel this sound background, would you agree with Arseny, or would you have different associations?